Alrighty, what's going on, guys?
What the fuck's he doing here? Come in now. Now it is.
Get this plate out of here. Alright, well, welcome everybody. First episode of Workman's World. For those who are in here for about the past 5-10 minutes or so, I extremely apologize for some tech difficulties. I'm going on here. I don't get it really. Like, I test out this stuff with the iShare, the video capture, all this other stuff, but yeah, you know, when it comes time for game day, a bunch of curveballs want to be thrown at me. So I apologize for that, but hey, nonetheless, we are here. First ever solo podcast that I have done. I'm just going to check myself here real quick just to make sure that you guys are actually hearing my voice. And we're good. Okay, sounds great. No one is watching right now, which is kind of quite unfortunate, but I think we'll get some people rolling in here as we get going here today. So first up, things that we got on topic for today, we have, just to update for any of you who may have been living under a rock for the past several months with all of the 2020 silly season stuff. We're going to highlight some of that stuff, as well as my personal 2020 Cup Series predictions, and also the 500 being this weekend, obviously. We couldn't go without talking about the Daytona 500 for this weekend. Hold up real quick, guys. Alrighty, yeah. So for those who are wondering that there may be an additional voice in the background, it's my roommate. So kind of hard to do one of these things when you're at college and you got roommates. So fortunate, but we're going to see what we can do here. So, all right. First of all, let's go down the list of 2020 changes. First of all, one big one that kind of happened between Stenhouse and Busher. So, yeah, JTD Doherty, who they were all in the works of re-signing Chris Busher back to the 37, but Roush came and decided to pull him. Guys, sorry, I'm gonna have to do this. Okay. Sorry, I had to tell my roommate to keep it down. So yeah, where were we? Okay. So yeah, first off, some big news here that happened a few months ago. So at first, it seemed that Roush Fenway Racing was going to re-sign Ricky Stenhouse Jr. back to the 17 through 2021.
Right.
But as the season went on, race after race, he kept crashing out, kept having some bad difficulties with the car. And then meanwhile, they brought in Ryan Newman to drive that 6 car. And mainly with Ryan being there, he proved that their cars had speed, making it into the 2019 playoffs, not even by a win. It was just pointing his way in. He beat guys like Stuart Haas Racing's Daniel Suarez. He beat Jimmy Johnson on points. He beat some other top guys as well, and he put that number 6 Roush Fenway Racing car into the playoffs. So when he did that, that basically showed the entire team, hey, our cars have speed. Like, you know, it's just a matter of fact of the drivers. So that being said, not only did Roush Fenway give Stenhouse the boot, but they also brought in Chris Busher. And the funny thing about that is it kind of caught JTD Doherty off guard because they were all prepared to sign Chris Busher back to the 37. But I can't remember who made a good mention about this. I think it may have been Eric Eastep who said that basically Roush Fenway, they still had somewhat of a say in regarding Chris Busher's career. So they brought Chris Busher back to the 17 car, which actually surprised Busher quite a bit. So that kicked Stenhouse to the curb. So with there being no one in that 47 car, well, technically 37, Busher was in the 37. They moved Stenhouse back over, put him in the 47, and they swapped Ryan Preece back to the 37. So yeah, kind of weird how they did that. Not like sure exactly why they would just change up numbers. I mean, I don't know if they had to actually change up the entire teams or whatnot. But so I'll talk more here a little bit based off of how these guys, how I think they're going to do with these silly season swaps. But for now, just go down the list. Next guy that we have up, I think, is the fan favorite, Matt DiBenedetto. Me personally, I am floored that Matt DiBenedetto got this ride for the main reason that every single time Matt DiBenedetto has entered a team, he has outperformed their equipment. Sorry, I'm just checking my consumer my mic. I'm a little bit paranoid that with all the technical difficulties we had before that, but yeah, Matt DiBenedetto, every single team that he has been with, he has outperformed in my opinion. So he started out with BK Racing. They're in an '83 car. They were basically a bottom of the barrel team. Couldn't really do much there, but he still took that car and ran in the top 10 at Bristol for one race, which is amazing. Then he moves on to Go Fast Racing, and same thing too. Their team was, one maybe two-star team when he started out, and then he took them back to what I consider a three-star team at this point. And I mean, nothing ever, really spectacular, but you know what? He was, taking a car that was in the complete back of the pack, and moving up into the top two-thirds, and at times contends for top half of the pack. So for him to do that with the type of equipment that car had, I think that says a lot about him. Then he gets the amazing ride and offer to go to the 95 car for Levine Family Racing, which was originally supposed to be for 2 years, but only given that 1 year last year. And what a job that he did in that 95 car. And it wasn't just a chance for him to have a win at Bristol to put in that car. But think about Levine Family Racing. Enter the sport, what, 2011, 2012? Someone may need to fact check me on that. But still, like when they entered the sport, same places, where you see Rick Ware Racing and these guys, just way back at the pack. Failure to even maintain speed at times. Just in the past couple of years, from where that team has come from, where yes, Casey Kane was there for a little bit. Yeah, he's somewhat helped their program here, but when they switched to Toyota and got some backing from JGR, so it wasn't a whole lot of backing. Matt DiBenedetto did amazing in that 95. And so just some of the things that he did, other than fight for the win at Bristol, led the most laps in the Daytona 500 last year. Literally every single time he went to a road course, except the Roval. Roval could have done a little bit better. But literally, you had top five at Sonoma, and then top 10 again. I believe it was seventh place finish at Watkins Glen too, if I wasn't mistaken. So, literally, whenever we would go to those drivers' racetracks, he would excel. And another one that just came to my mind, Darlington. Darlington, he was up there around as high as sixth, seventh place there too. And still, even though they had that alliance, somewhat of an alliance with. Joe Gibbs Racing last year, even though this one's going to be much stronger than last year's. So it wasn't a complete alliance, and he was still doing phenomenal in that car. So yeah, now with him being moved to the Wood Brothers, this is huge for him. Because I think if we keep thinking about, with the theme here of uh, Matt DiBenedetto constantly outperforming the equipment that he's been in, which he has, that 21 car, it's had race winning speed, and not just at these restrictor plate racetracks. Well, sorry, I shouldn't say restrictor plate racetracks. I should say super speedway because we don't have restrictor plate anymore. But anyway, like still not just the super speedway racetracks, but also when we go to some of these drivers racetracks that he's already naturally good at. You combine that with the equipment that the Wood Brothers have, since they're basically in a full blown alliance with Penske Racing. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple wins this year out of that 21 car. the guy had extremely amount of talent, always outperformed his equipment, and we'll get to more him later in my predictions. But yeah, that's a good job for him. Another silly season update. This guy kind of got stuck with the bottom of the barrel. Daniel Suarez at a 96. Uh, Unfortunately, this is going to be kind of like a Clint Boyer scenario a few years ago, where Boyer ran the 15 Chevrolet for, I believe, what was it, Turner H. Scott. And I mean, that was just basically a field fill year for him before the year that he knew was going to go to the Stuart Haas later. But after that, I mean, I'm sorry, it's so extremely frustrated. I'm trying to talk with my roommate behind me, but anyway, yeah, I just don't see Suarez doing good on that 96. Unfortunately, he's just going to be a filled year for him, where the driver's a lot better than the equipment, so he's going to be struggling to make races. Unfortunately, he's going to be struggling, to like be not one of the last 5 cars running on the racetrack. So it's going to suck for him, but hey, at least he's got a ride. Next from our silly season recap. How about this? Our rookie class. I don't think we've seen a rookie class this big in a long time. So, just our big 3 that moved up. You have Cole Custer, who moved up to the 41 for Stuart Haas. Christopher Bell moved to the 95 for Levine Family Racing, replacing Matt DiBenedetto. And you also have Tyler Reddick, who is replacing Daniel Hemrick, and they moved him up from the Xfinity Series after going back-to-back championships there. And then the 4th guy, I know there's like a few other rookies too. I know there's like, you can consider Quinn Huff and Dylan Lupton. There may be one guy I'm not mistaken too, but the other guy I think that has a legit uh, driver to be talking about here as far as rookie contention is John Hunter Nemechek in the 38. Wow, this is going to be an amazing rookie of the year battle in my opinion. One of the best we've had in a while. We'll get to more of those later, but that's just a quick update. So that's pretty much it for driver changes. As far as crew chief changes, we had quite a bit to happen between Penske, Stuart Haas, and RCR. First one with Penske, all 3 of their guys had a swap. So you had Jeremy Bolins, who went from Ryan Blaney to Brad Keselowski. Todd Gordon, who goes from Joey Logano to Ryan Blaney. And Paul Wolf, who goes from Brad Keselowski to Joey Logano. When I'm looking at who the biggest impact for this would be, I think it would have to be Ryan Blaney. First of all, like Ryan Blaney or maybe Brad Keselowski. The thing first with Brad Keselowski is most of the time where Keselowski and Bolins have worked together, it's been in the Xfinity series, but when they've been paired up, they've done extremely well. Now I know, that's not a whole lot to go off of, just because they haven't kind of put together a full season together. But still, I think that's a pretty good relationship that's going to happen between those two. And then also just Todd Gordon, championship winning crew chief, bringing that knowledge that he's had with Joey Logano these past several years, and is now going to be able to help out Ryan Blaney. I think, quite frankly, with Todd Gordon being Ryan Blaney's crew chief this year, this could be potentially a breakout year for that 12 car. And that's pretty influential too, considering that this is a contract year for Ryan Blaney. And we'll get to that later, but I think that's going to be a key thing to be looking at throughout this year. Some other guys that made crew chief swaps as well is Stuart Haas. You had Klaus Meyer, who was Eric Almirola's crew chief, and Mike Bogaravich, who was Clint Boyer's crew chief. They basically swapped with each other. And then also with Cole Custer moving up to the Cup Series, they also brought up his crew chief from the Cup Series with them as well. With that being Shiplet. And actually, just going off of that point too, real quick, is that the big three Xfinity rookies that have all moved up from Xfinity to Cup this year, all three of them have their Xfinity Series crew chiefs moving up there with them. So you have Shiplet, who is going up with Custer, who has been with him for the past couple of years. Um, Jason Ratcliffe used to be crew chief for Matt Kenseth for a number of years. He's been Cole Custer's crew chief in the Xfinity Series the past couple of years, and now with him moving up there with him, I think that's going to be great. And then also Randall Burdett moving up with Tyler Reddick into the Cup Series, and I think that's going to be great for them as well. And then last bit of crew chief silly season swaps is you have Justin Alexander back with Austin Dillon, and Randall Burdett moving up there to the 8 with Tyler Reddick. So quite frankly, I was kind of surprised. I can't remember the exact reason why they took Alexander out of the crew chief position for the 3 car. Remember when Austin Dillon won the Coke 600 back in 2017? That was the first race with Justin Alexander on the pit box. No, it was first, second race. I may be mistaken on that. But still, though, I think that, and we'll get to this more as far as my 2020 predictions. I'm really interested to see how this change goes because for the past several years, RCR has been changing their crew chiefs around between their drivers and etc. So, yeah, but we'll get that to a bit. All right, so that wraps up our 2020 silly season recap. Now, as far as my 2020 predictions, I got quite a list here. Who are some guys to look out for as far as, they're going to be the best guys week in and week out? Number one, without a doubt, Joe Gibbs. Nothing's really changing for them as far as Martin Truex Jr. having to have a new crew chief. Honestly, I know a lot of people thinking that's going to affect him quite a bit with Cole Pearn being out of the crew chief role. But still, I don't really see how big of an issue that's going to be, to be honest. I still think, Truex will win a decent amount of races, and he'll still be contention to win. So it will be a little bit hairy, probably, at first, these first few weeks of building that driver-crew chief relationship together. But after a few races, I think they'll be smooth sailing. As well as just for the rest of the Gibbs guys in general. I know people will say that Eric Jones wasn't at the level that Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, and Martin Truex were at last year, which he wasn't. But at the end of the year, he pulled out that win at Darlington. He had a chance to win at Bristol before he took himself out. And he was also just showing speed general at the end of the year. So, and especially now with the... I know it was kind of a survival of the fittest with the Busch class there that Eric Jones ended up picking up the win there. Uh, but still, a win's a win, and I think he will build momentum off of that, especially since he's already had some really great fast cars as well throughout Speed Weeks. Next guy who's going to be got to look out for, Kevin Harvick still. Just signed a contract extension, which will now go through 2023. That's a whole another 4 more years of racing when you look at it. So, and I mean, I wouldn't blame him for extending it. Right now he's not slowing down at all. Harvick is what, 44, 45 years old, and he's still performing every single week. I mean, except for some years at RCR where he was kind of in a slump. Harvick has always been a contender ever since he came in here to the Cup Series. So, yeah, I definitely don't see him slowing down, and I think them signing Harvick on for SHR through 2023 is going to be a great move for them. Some 2 more teams I think is going to maybe surprise some people when I say this. I think Hendrick will get their act together this year. First off, just look at their drivers. Chase Elliott won a number of races last year. I know the round of 8 went. I don't think the round of 8 for Chase Elliott could have gotten any worse for him. Literally crashed out or had a mechanical issue every single race, and that kind of kept him from getting into the Final Four when he even had decent speed in those cars before he got wrecked out. So, but still, not considering that, he had a great season last year between winning the 2 road course races and also Talladega. William Byron he did an amazing job at the end of last season. Had a couple times where it looked like he had some race winning speed. He got a number of poles. And I think last year, having Chad Canals at the top of the pit box did wonders for him, especially in the second half, and especially too when we went back to racetracks that have 2 dates. It always seemed like that 24 car did a lot better at tracks that they went to a second time than it was at the beginning of the year, the first time they went there. So yeah, I think he'll do better. Alex Bowman, I know some people may be on the fence about him. I still think like speed is there; they just need to find it. And then Jimmy Johnson. Uh, I know a popular question that a lot of people are asking is, will Jimmy win? And I'll get to that question in a bit. Um, but wow, even though the last 2.5 years for Jimmy have been downright terrible, I still think there's some life in that 48 car. And I feel like if he can pull off some decent runs and get a win, then that breakout success will start to happen again. And then the last guys to look out for Chip Ganassi Racing, the most underrated team in all of Cup, in my opinion. First off, Kurt Busch did a phenomenal job the first half of the season carrying that team. He was the highest ranked Chevy in points, I believe, for the first half of the season last year. Had great speed in that car, and he did an amazing job hopping into that one car. But then his teammate, Kyle Larson. I get really passionate about Larson because, and it mainly comes from how the fans think about it. I can't tell you how many times people are saying, "Oh, Larson's overrated. Larson's overrated. Larson's overrated." Are you kidding me? If anything, Larson is underrated. You're like, because literally everyone was ignoring this fact going into the playoffs last year. Kyle Larson had the second average best finish heading into the playoffs last season for the last 10 for the 10 races, the last 10 races of the regular season. But yet people were still picking him to get eliminated in the first or second round. And to everyone's surprise, not to my surprise though, because I actually picked him as a championship winner. Made it to the round of 8 with a shot still to make it into the final 4 at Phoenix at the end of that race. Finished like 4th there, I believe, but still had a shot to win there at the last restart. So yeah, literally everyone is sleeping on Kyle Larson, and I have no idea why. I don't know if it's because people think that he's overrated, and the fact that with him doing all these dirt races or whatnot, that he's putting his focus on that too much and not NASCAR, which I don't think he is. I think guys like hey, Kyle Larson's a racer. I think if anything, he's kind of this era's Tony Stewart almost, where hey, put him in a car, put him in something that has a steering wheel and 4 tires on it, and the guy could probably have a good shot at getting a decent run out of it. But yeah, Larson, watch out for him to be a good contender this year. Um, Next for predictions, I got who's going to be the most improved, and there's 3 guys. William Byron. Byron, I think is going to do really good this year. I just mentioned it before how like the second half of last season he was doing a whole lot better. Um, had a chance to win at Martinsville. Sat on the pole for both road course for Sonoma and the Roval. And he was doing great out front, but then once he got kind of caught back in traffic, he had some hard times making his way up there through the pack. But still, though, uh, had some great race winning speed at certain tracks, too. So he definitely will get a win this season. I'm not sure where. Actually, no, I lied. I think I do know where. It's going to be at a road course, I think. Between himself and Chase Elliott, they are two of some of the better road courses, in my opinion. That are currently in the series right now, right there behind Martin Truex. Another guy's going to improve, Chris Buescher. The guy, first off, Chris Buescher. He got that 37 JTT Doherty racing car into the top 20 in points, if I'm not mistaken. That is a huge step, huge accomplishment for that 37 car. Um, I mean, they went to two cars, what, how many years ago? Just a couple of years ago. And they brought Chris Buescher in for that 37. And he's one of those guys, too, that I feel like does better in the equipment that he's running. I mean, he was kind of doing average when he was over there at Front Row Motorsports in that 34 car, about where you would expect. But, the past couple of years there at JTG, he had some really great runs, running, well, Darlington, he was running up there in the top 10. Great job by him. And then other tracks too, where you wouldn't maybe expect him to run, he was running top 15, top 20. So, and with him being in that 17 car, I think I wouldn't be surprised if he made the playoffs. And I think it's going to be the same reason, because we can call it the Ryan Newman effect. Um, and that's exactly what I'm basing off. I'm basing off of how he's going to do based off of how we saw what happened with Ryan Newman. Newman, those years that he was at RCR, it just, other than he got a win at ISM, he wasn't really putting up much of a fight anywhere. Kind of running mid pack, was lucky to get inside the top 15, top 20. And then as soon as they put him in that six car over at Roush, where their cars the past few years, they haven't been stellar. They haven't been race winning contention. You had either Trevor Bayne, who would have problems, or you had Ricky Stenhouse, who, being way too aggressive at times, and taking himself out or taking others out and putting their car in a bad position. So when Ryan Newman came over there, and so hey, we can make the playoffs not based off of a luck win, but on points by beating out guys like Jimmy Johnson with Hendrick equipment, Daniel Suarez with Stuart Haas Racing equipment. When they put that car, it finished 15th in points at the end of the regular season. I think that's when they looked at it like, hey, it isn't our equipment. We got good equipment. We just need better drivers. And right around that time too, once Newman made the playoffs, that's when they gave Stenhouse the boot, and they brought in Buescher. So I think with Roush's equipment being better than JTG's, in my opinion, and the fact that Chris Buescher did make the top 20 in points last season within a JTT Jordy car, I think he can make the playoffs this year. And then last but not least, for those who are probably watching, and wow, there's only 3 people watching. If you're watching this right now, please share this link out, put a comment in there. I want to know who's all watching this right now. Just because I want to see the support and everything. Like, come on. Oh, there's Fish. There's Fish. He is watching. I saw Racing Nate was in here. He put in a comment earlier. Uh, but yeah, he won. Typical. Probably wrecked someone. I don't know. So yeah, third guy is probably going to do an amazing job. Uh, and he's the fan favorite. Every woman should probably look at him, Matt DiBenedetto. And I don't say this just because, the fan hype. And I mean, he did gain a lot of fans after he almost won at Bristol. And I know a lot of people are quick to jump on the Matt DiBenedetto bandwagon. I know I was cheering for him during that race. But instead of looking at it and immediately thinking, oh, he's in a better car now, he's going to do better, he's going to win races. Just looking at it from an analytics standpoint, that 21 car did great at the Super Speedways last year with Paul Menard in there. They are aligned with Penske, like such an alliance that they're basically a fourth Penske car to this point. Um, so that's why I think he's going to do well in that aspect. We saw in the duels last night, him running up front there, pushing Harvick. He had a great pushing car, kind of like how Trevor Bayne had a great pushing car there in 2011. Uh, but yeah, as I said earlier, for those who may not have been here, Matt DiBenedetto has a characteristic about him about doing better than the equipment that he has. So when he was in the 83 car at BK Racing, yeah, towards the back of the pack, but you know what? He brought, we went to tracks like Bristol. Bristol put that 83 car into the top 5, finished 6th place. in what was, in my opinion, a 2 or 3 star team at that time. Literally, they were just out there logging laps practically every other track that we went to. But Bristol and that car, the 83 car, a 2 or 3 star team, give him a 6th place at that track. Are you kidding me? That just kind of really, that, in my eyes, that just really showed the amount of talent that that guy had. Um, then where do you go after that? Yeah, oh yeah, he went to go fast in the 32. 32 car when it first started out was just a field filler. But once they put him at the Benedetto in that car, yeah, they were towards the backpack, like towards the races, but through his second, 3rd years there, he was starting to do better in that car, bring it up there just inside, top 2/3 of the field, and for the type of equipment that that car had, and for him to get the finish that he did, I think he did well in that aspect. Then he was on to Levine Family Racing, and for a team where in the early 2000s, who had guys like Scott Speed in there just trying to find someone just to drive the car, um, just the amount of projects that they made. In my opinion, they're the next furniture road racing. They have that They had that alliance now with Joe Gibbs last year, and this year it's a much stronger alliance with Bell in there. Um, but still, though, it wasn't a total 100% alliance with the Benedetto in that car last year. But still, he almost won Bristol. He led the most laps in last year's Daytona 500. And when we went to drivers' racetracks like road courses and Darlington and some of these other racetracks, he did great in for the type of equipment that that car had, especially in the second half of the season too. He did a lot better. So he is going to be one of those guys to look out for. I would not be surprised if he gets a win, honestly. Uh, but yeah, look out for Matty D. Guys who are going to struggle. Uh, Guys, I hate to say this because I'm a big fan of their team, RCR. I don't know what it's been the last few years, but especially last year with this new aero package, yeah, they could have cars that could qualify good, but wow. Um, when you're in the mid 20s in points, that's not really good. I think they can bounce back. They have a chance to, but it's going to be difficult with them, especially with all the crew chief changes that they've had over the years. Um, as far as what Tyler Reddick can do in that 8 car, I mean, the guy is talented, but I'm just curious if it's going to be a case of if the equipment is going to limit him to what we're used to seeing him do in the Xfinity series. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what to say on the RCR. I think they're going to struggle a bit. But yeah, second guy is going to struggle. I know some of you guys may think I'm crazy when I say this guy because of how well he's doing the speedway this speed weeks, but Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Even though he got to pull for the 500, he had a great car in the Clash. JTG the past couple of years, they have brought decent super speedway cars. Um, and so I don't want to jump on the Bubba Wallace bandwagon. A couple of years ago in 2018, where like, oh, Bubba's finished second in the Daytona 500. Oh, he's going to do a lot better. Because what has he done since that point? Since he got that second place, literally nothing. Um, So I need to see what Stenhouse does in these first few races of the season because honestly, I hope that this demotion for Stenhouse from going to from Roush to JTG Equipment is a wake up call for him. I really do because the guy's talented, but the guy I feel like it's really over aggressive when he puts himself into bad situations that can easily be avoided. So yeah, I would. Uh, I still think Stenhouse going to struggle. The third guy I just mentioned him, Bubba Wallace. See, I know a lot of people say they like Bubba. Oh yeah, because he's passionate and everything. Um, his emotions have actually been hurting him. I feel like, to be honest. You had the post race altercation between himself and Bowman on pit road there with the Roval. That wasn't a good look for him. Uh, then you also had, I'm having an extreme brain fart right now, but oh yeah, you have where he spun himself out at Texas there at the end of that race. Uh, Tried to pass it up. Originally, NASCAR didn't do anything. They originally looked into it like the first couple days after Texas, and they didn't do anything. But then once Bubba opened his mouth the next weekend at Phoenix, they're like, okay, well, you verbally admitted to spinning it out. And he kind of just had this smug attitude about it. Uh, yeah, and they docked him points and they penalized him for that. So I think the big thing with Bubba is, not only is he not in the best equipment, but he's letting his emotions get to him way too easily. So yes, I appreciate the passion, but you don't have to be, you know, a jerk about it. That's what I'm going to say. All right, so some specific predictions I got here. So all of you are probably wanting to know: do I think Jimmy Johnson is going to win a race? I've gone back and forth about it, and I will say yes, I do think he's going to win. Where he wins, though, I have no idea. Absolutely no idea where he's going to win at. Just because how different we've seen him run these tracks, just with this different aero package and everything. I mean, think one of the reasons I bring that up is he got what 10, 11 wins at Dover. When they went there last time, he was struggling. Uh, so yeah, I think he can win, especially with the amount of success that his teammates have been starting to have between um, Elliott doing better, Byron doing better, and Bowman. He could be doing a little bit better, but he has found some speed as well. So yeah, I think if that organization as a whole improves a bit, then we'll see Jimmy start being in race winning contention again. And then speaking on the topic of the 48 car, who will be the guy that will replace Jimmy Johnson after he retires this year? Uh, and I am confident in saying Ryan Blaney will replace him. Here's why. I think Blaney's going to replace him, but I think Hendrick they would go for Larson if Larson was wanting to go to Hendrick. But I think the key thing is going to be, Larson's talked about it too. He wants to do his dirt racing. He wants to continue his racing outside of NASCAR. I think the big thing for him is that if Hendrick allows Larson to do that and do his racing outside of like NASCAR and what he's doing right now, then he would go over there. But if they don't allow him to do that, like if they keep him on a tighter leash, then that's when I would see them going after Blaney. And then as far as what Blaney would do, uh, I think he would take Hendrick over Penske. Uh, I mean, to be honest, I feel like I need to have more of a reason behind why he would do that. But I mean, as far as relational standpoint, good friends with Chase Elliott and William Byron, they get along great. Uh, and then also too, I feel like the past couple years, unless Blaney has a breakout year this year, um, I guarantee he's been wanting to do better than what he has. I mean, he said it himself that he doesn't want to be a driver like a one win a year driver. He wants to go out there and be race winning contention every single week, and racking up wins. So I think based off of how the first half of this season goes, if he's doing great, he'll stay at Penske. If he's not doing too hot, he will go over to Hendrick. All right, and then now to some of the fun stuff. Rookie of the Year, Final Four, and Champion. I am going to say Christopher Bell gets the Rookie of the Year award. Uh, just looking at how big the alliance this year looks like it's going to be between Levine and Joe Gibbs, the amount of success that Christopher Bell has had with his crew chief Jason Radcliffe, and Radcliffe is up there moving with him to the Cup Series. And that Radcliffe does have previous Cup Series experience as a crew chief with Matt Kenseth. Uh, I think that Bell's going to be able to win that. It's not going to be easy for him. I want to make that clear. I don't think it's going to be easy for him to win a championship over Christopher Bell or over Cole Custer. But still, I believe that he's going to pull it on top and probably get a win or two. Next, final four. It's going to be three of the same guys last year: Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick. Those guys are not slowing down, and I don't see why they'd be slowing down or like what would giving them problems. So I think they're going to be in Final Four. But then also, I would say the fourth guy is Kyle Larson. If he can get out to the start this season that he had for the second half of last season, because the first half of last season was pretty bad for him, just from like having bad luck, mechanical problems, wrecks, incidents, pit road penalties. The first half of the season did not go Larson's way, and everyone was talking about like Kurt Busch has been the first tier driver over there, blah blah blah, and I think they got to Larson enough where he really started kicking it into gear and he started outperforming his teammate. So yeah, I would not be surprised to see Larson in the Final Four. And then champion between those four, I'm confident saying Denny Hamlin. Same issue with Larson. I feel like Hamlin wasn't doing bad the first half of the season, but he wasn't the greatest. Yes, he did get a Daytona 500 win. Yes, he did get the win at Texas, but it wasn't until like the second half of the season where Hamlin was like, consistently a threat to win every single week, every single track that he went to. Because he did what? He got like 5, 6, 7 top fives in a row when he put those few races together towards the end of the regular season. Uh, Guy was on fire, and if he can start out that well this season, um, kind of like how Kyle Busch did last season, how well he started out, and if he can maintain that throughout the entirety of the regular season, I think he's going to be a championship favorite. All right, so that does it for 2020 overall season predictions. Here is my Daytona 500 predictions. First of all, I cannot say enough good things about this aero package. I feel like with um, see the best draft package in my opinion was the early 2000s with the Gen 4 cars. Guys were getting runs on each other. Bump drafting, nothing too crazy. Plenty of racing going on between the packs and those guys. And then, if anything, since that point, this is the closest to that Gen 4 draft era that I have seen, to be honest. So, yeah, I've been saying for years since they went to the COT and the Gen 5 and then the Gen 6, how to make the racing better, how to make the racing better, how do you make the racing better, how do you make the racing better. Just, just bring back something with the Gen 4 cars or some aero package equivalent to the Gen 4 cars. So, because really, there isn't really that bubble of air that really exists anymore that, that the early Gen 6 cars had. Guys are able to get on each other's bumpers and able to get going. Um, But yeah, I'm thrilled for the 500 this year. As far as reacts, what we've seen so far in this week, the Clash. Ooh, babe, that wasn't pretty. Uh, I think a pretty well written cartoon that I saw a few days ago explained it pretty well. Where you had Joe Gibbs and Rick Hendrick standing on the infield with burning money in their hands, while half the field is going one direction, half the field is going other. And you had Joe Gibbs saying that that he paid for that he just basically threw all the money away and wrecked race cars for a trophy, and fortunately Rick Hendrick didn't get the trophy. So yeah, that sucks. But yeah, I don't know if you'll see that no holds barred at the end of this race on Sunday that you would usually see. But I would say though that um, it's still going to be crazy. You're still going to see guys wrecking. And it's not just this race. I mean, how many super speed, except for Talladega last spring, how many races have we seen the past several years where, it's like, constant wreck after wreck after wreck in the closing laps of the race? And it's just guys going at it. Um, so yeah, and as far as the blocking that Joey did, I think guys just got to be more aware of that. I think that's actually, if anything, that's where most of your wrecks are going to happen. Guys are going to think that they can block these runs, and they're not going to, and they're going to get turned into the infield or put in the fence. So yeah, I think guys need to be more aware of their blocking. But yeah, that's what I got to say on that. So some strong guys to look for. I know he said he's going to probably struggle this year, but obviously Stenhouse. Not just because he's on the pole, but when I saw him racing in the duels last night, his car was phenomenal through the center of the corner. I mean, yeah, he would be on the inside, but still, when he was leading a train of four cars on the inside, and everyone else on the outside was running single file, he was passing about two cars per corner at times. And not only that, but he was pulling away about a car length and a half from the competitors that were pushing him in that line. So when I saw that, I was like, dang, this guy's got a fast car. And he wasn't doing it by doing any bonehead moves that we've seen him do in the past. It was just based off of plain speed. So yeah, I would look out for him. Uh, Next guy I would look out for is Hamlin. Hamlin, he showed how aggressive he was last night in the duels. Um, yeah, he's gonna. Sorry, I keep looking at my phone here, and I got messages constantly popping up. I would be telling these guys, hey, quit chatting and actually watch my podcast. Anyway, um,
One was city.
so yeah, gosh, yeah, I gotta turn this off. Sorry, guys. Um, but anyway, okay, back to Hamlin. Pretty aggressive, but like he isn't over aggressive like he is with Stenhouse. Hamlin, yeah, he makes aggressive moves, but he's smart about it. He won't force the issue. Next guys, I think I just put all four of them in here. The Penske Wood Brothers cars. Uh, I can't like how many years has it been now where literally every single super speedway we've gone to, a Penske car has been strong. And it isn't just the cars themselves that are strong; it's also, in my opinion, the drivers as well. Just Keselowski himself is a great super speedway racer. Joey Logano is a good super speedway racer. Ryan Blaney, he's been towards the front at the end of these Daytona 500s, and he picked up the win at Talladega last fall. And then you got Matt Benedetto, the guy who was always outperforming his equipment, led the most laps in last year's Daytona 500. So yeah, those four cars, watch out for them.
Yeah.
They're probably going to be if you were to if all the field were for some reason to break up into groups of four or whatever, that would be the strongest group of four cars right there. And then the last guys will look at the Hendrick cars. Not just because of their single car speed that they brought, but they've also had decent cars in the past. It's just getting to the end of those races and avoiding the wrecks. Byron and Johnson had great cars last night, working together in their duel. Chase Elliott won Talladega in the spring last season, and just ever since he's been in Cup, Chase Elliott has been a great super speedway racer, so I'd look out for him. And then Alex Bowman also would have had a chance to win Talladega last year in the fall if he did not pull that dumb block, in my opinion, and stacked up himself in the entire field. So yeah, I would watch out for those guys. Guys who are going to be in trouble, I just have Toyota. With the amount of I'm trying to think of a appropriate language to use for this. But I think you guys can think about, you guys probably know what I'm talking about when literally the Chevys are all in line riding with each other, all the Fords are in line riding with each other. Um, just with how much that we've seen that in the past, especially in the super speedway races last season, and with the Toyotas just being outnumbered, they're going to be in trouble, except for Hamlin and Jones. Um, I think they could just hop in line with whoever they want because their cars themselves are pretty decent. But Truex, who usually has trouble on the super speedways, and then also um, Kyle Busch. Eric Estep said it good in his Out of the Groove episode the other day that when it comes to flat, wide open racetracks, super speedways, they haven't been really kind to that 18 car, and not just with this new aero package, just everywhere we've gone. I mean, yes, he has a. I think he has what, two super speedway wins, but both of those that came with him being out front with the caution coming out on the last lap. So yeah, those guys are going to be the most in trouble. Uh, Dark horses, I have first off this guy, biggest dark horse and biggest underrated guy when it comes to super speedways, Ryan Preece. Uh, has the best average finish of all drivers from at the super speedway tracks last year. Um, I would say Ryan Preece is aggressively conservative, if that makes sense. The guy knows how to get his car to the end. He doesn't make super aggressive moves, but he puts his car in the best area at the right time of the race. So yeah, I would look at Priest at being a guy who could make an impact on Sunday. Second guy too is Tyler Reddick. Tyler was extremely aggressive in the super speedway races for the Xfinity cars last year. Literally, if he was in second or third or anywhere the rest of the pack, it didn't matter what lap it was. He was doing all that he could to get that lead and maintain it. And so just with that, I don't know how well he's going to be able to do that with these new Cup cars and just different car for him. We saw it yesterday in the duel with how hard he was working at trying to get around Suarez and side drafting everything, but I don't know if he's going to be able to be as aggressive in these cars as he was in those Xfinity cars. So that may damper his aggressiveness a little bit, and just for the fact that this is his first full-time season in Cup, but still I watch out for him. And then third, Chris Buescher. Busher himself, kind of the same way as Priest. Those JTG cars have had decent super speedway cars the past several years. But Busher himself, the past couple of years, has had a chance to win the 500, and not just that, but then also some races at Talladega as well. Uh, and the summer races at Daytona. So with him being at this new team with Roush, a team that's better than JTG in my opinion, and the 17 car itself has had decent speed with Stenhouse in there at the super speedways when he wasn't being over aggressive. I would look out for him. All right, and with that, that brings it to the last point in this show. Before I get to this, for those who are watching, I know it hasn't been the best turnout. It'll probably get better throughout the year, but for anyone who is watching, feel free to put a question down in the chat, and I will answer, and I'll get to those after this. But yeah, my pick to win the Daytona 500. I don't think it's going to be a guy that has won this before. I think it'll be a new winner. It's not going to be a guy that you see win all the time. But still, this guy has been phenomenal at the super speedways. And with this crew chief change, I think it'll go well for him. I think Ryan Blaney will win this year's Daytona 500. The guy, the guy has been towards the front of these races where it comes down to the end of it. Unfortunately, the past few years, just ended up getting caught up in wrecks with a fast car. So if Blaney can keep it clean through all the chaos like we saw last fall at Talladega, I think he could have a shot to put this thing away and win the 500. So yeah, that's gonna just about do it here. Thank you guys. So I assume that more guys are gonna be watching this podcast. Like after this is live, they'll go back through and watch it and watching what's reposted up on YouTube. But yeah, we're going to be doing these things throughout the season. So the days may change from time to time, but so far I'm trying to aim for Friday afternoons. But yeah, but that's going to wrap it up, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this first episode of Workman's World. And we'll be talking a lot more throughout the season other than just the Cup Series. We'll talk about esports from time to time as well, and then some big things happen in Xfinity or in the Truck Series. We'll make sure to definitely mention those.